in association with Stanbic IBTC.
We're on.
Stanbic IBTC. It can be.
All right, welcome to Business Express for a Thursday. And in the next 15 minutes, let's talk about Nigeria's foreign exchange. My goodness. I don't like where it is now, do you? You can be part of the show today, sending messages across to us on WhatsApp. It's 0809 4440981. I'll take that again. 0809 4440981. That's how to reach us live in the studio via the WhatsApp platform. You can also send a tweet to us at Smooth981FM or streaming live on YouTube. It's Smooth981FM Lagos. My name is Pepple, and joining us for a conversation today is the head foreign exchange trading at Stanbic IBTC, Modupe Olaniyi. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm all right, Dupe. Thanks for joining us. Let's get straight into the conversation. What does your foreign exchange team do?
So essentially, as the name implies, is trading, just buying and selling of currencies. You take positions based on your view of the currency, subject to regulatory limits that are allowed. So we just basically buy and sell the currencies, G7s as well as dollar naira for our clients, and as well as on behalf of the bank.
All right. Are banks, foreign exchange trading teams like yours considering a trading desk for cryptos with a small allocation?
Well, so as it were, I'll say the foreign exchange and cryptos are they're two different things. I mean, they're volatile instruments, but then I'll say that in order for a bank to be future ready or any organization, as it were, you'd have to look at the current trends. And everyone knows that right now, cryptos and blockchain is what is in vogue. But as a bank, given the fact that you're meant to be conservative, you and I know that cryptos are very, very volatile. You see what happened to all the cryptos like last month, touching record lows. So at some point, I'm sure that banks, particularly local banks, would look to it. A lot of international banks have already started. So we've seen banks like Deutsche Bank, Wells Fargo, Citigroup are looking to cryptos. But as it were, locally in Nigeria, because of the capital allocation required to do it, I'm sure that the conversation will be much deeper. So right now, we haven't seen any local bank, as it were, start that. But like I said, in order to be future ready, somewhere in the future, that conversation will come up. So yeah.
I'm very curious. What has trading in FX been like with the appreciation of the US dollar?
Well, so I'll say that, as it were, because Nigeria does a managed float regime, so we haven't seen that kind of appreciation do much for us in terms of dollar naira, i.e. naira has depreciated, but officially we've seen that it's been stable somewhere between 420, 430. And so there hasn't been a lot of volatility for the dollar naira, but then we've seen that even previously safe haven currencies such as the Swiss franc, Japanese yen also took a beating against the dollar. So it's interesting times for currency, as it were, but naira, like I said, because of the managed float that we operate, it has been generally stable, so to say, in the official market.
In fact, right before the conversation, just off air, we were having a conversation talking about, for instance, those who had to resort to black markets because they want to buy the dollar or pounds, right? Because they had to pay fees abroad. The rates this time last year, and now it's not the same. And the banks, I don't know, are taking a longer time to pay some of these fees through from A. So people have to wait about 45 days. And the resumption dates are in September. So some have resorted to, using the black markets, and this has undoubtedly impacted the markets and also the depreciation of the naira. In fact, the official rate is at 430 naira, was 431 2 days ago. At the parallel market, it's somewhere between 700 and 710. What do you make of the current levels of the naira?
So just like we were talking about, it's essentially driven by demand and supply. And like you rightly mentioned, there has been some form of delay, but that's also because the demand for dollars has increased vis-a-vis that for naira. So we've seen that there's a lot of, given the time that we're in, right, where there's a lot of demand for travel allowances. There are people looking to travel for summer. Nigerians are still Yes, Nigerians are still traveling. So there's a lot of demand for that. And school fee season is approaching as well, sometime around September. So we have seen demand increase much sporadically, whereas in terms of the supply, we're not seeing as much as it were. Currently, previously, we'd see that foreign investors used to be a typical major supplier, but we haven't seen all of that happen because of other reasons. And so the central bank continues to intervene. So we've seen that they sell to banks weekly for travel allowances and school fees, but then it just appears as though it's like a moving target because the demand continues to persist, and all that moves to the parallel market. And I mean, we've seen that coming from an open of 615 the previous week, we're currently at 700, and I mean, I'm not sure where that is going to end. If you ask me, there's a bit of speculation, if you ask me, driving that. But by and large, there's still that demand and supply imbalance.
But talking speculations, there are people who are, like you said, I mean, you've mentioned speculation. There are people who are speculating that before the end of the year, we might see dollar get to 1,000 naira. God forbid. I don't want to see. I mean, see that happen. See that happen in a government that did campaign that will keep dollar at 1 naira to a dollar. $1 versus 1 naira. That's not what we're seeing now. And there's still rumors that it might get to 1,000 naira. What's your reaction to that?
I think what I would say, it's an interesting thing to say, right? I guess when the government were campaigning to say 1 for 1, they were not sure they were going to see when they got into power. But that conversation around exchange rate, there's a lot of things that needs to be done for our economy. For one, diversification. We're really, really, really hell-bent on and focused on oil, as it were. But then there's a lot of revenue that needs to come for dollars that will sort of make that supply come through. So if you call for 1,000, I mean, I'm not sure, but like I said, there's still a lot of speculation driving where the currency is. And if that continues and see that the central bank doesn't aggressively take action, then we might actually see that happen. But as it were, if we're using the official levels and based on outlook and projection of where the currency should be, I mean, some banks call it at 440, some banks call it at 470. But yeah, it's left to be seen. Frankly, there needs to be a lot diversification that needs to happen for our currency to appreciate, as it were.
All right, Modupe, let's keep the conversation going. But as a professional, do you think Nigeria needs to strengthen what do you think Nigeria needs to do to strengthen her currency?
So just like I was saying, I think that there's a lot of diversification that needs to happen away from oil.
Moving away from oil to non-oil.
Moving away from oil to non-oil, as it were. Right. Also, we see that currently higher interest rates is something that could give a quick win, but then again, we also have a debt to revenue issue, so that might not happen. So if we go back to 2015 to 2017, particularly 2017, where we saw a lot of foreign inflows come through, that was largely because there was high interest rates and that attracted portfolio investors. But typically, it's hot money. So generally, you would want some form of stability in terms of FDIs, not FPIs now. And so those are one of the things that there needs to be a lot of diversification from oil. I mean, not to flog, I kind of have flogged that point, really. We need to start to accrue income. There needs to be demand for naira. Right now, there's no demand for naira.
But let's look at the Nigerian economy at this time. What do you make of it?
So, I mean, we're currently in precarious times. If we ask me, we have a situation of stagflation. So we have high inflation right now. Last print was like 18.6. That's like a high from like 5 years back. We currently have high unemployment as well. And interest rates are not as high to attract portfolio investors as it is. You only need to go on the street to ask the average man on the street what he thinks right now. Like I said, we're in precarious times as an economy.
Nigeria's biggest economic challenge, would you say it's inflation, unemployment, exchange rate, poverty, lack of productivity, or perhaps all of them?
I'll say it's an all of the above, but then again, it would be largely driven by the lack of production, like I've been saying. We are really, really, really focusing on oil, and as it is, oil prices are now high from where we were 2014. But we just haven't seen that benefit to the economy. And that's because We've seen the oil production levels being affected by infrastructure. And I mean, there's the crude oil theft situation, and there's insecurity also affecting that. So by and large, if we need to actually start to produce as an economy, because the moment you start to produce, then your people get employed, and then things start to happen. There's a lot of demand for naira. Then you see your currency appreciate, and all these things would lead to, I mean, better situation for the Nigerian economy, as it were. So production, I'll say lack of productivity is our number one challenge.
Do you also think that insecurity in Nigeria has affected investors from coming in, has also affected production? That's for, for manufacturers in Nigeria, for those producing. Do you think insecurity in Nigeria has impacted investment generally? Just to put this in, I saw a story, the excess crude account has fallen from $35 million to $376,000. I'll say that again, from $35 million to $376,000. And the government said they used the money to pay for boats, for maritime security. Do you think insecurity in Nigeria has impacted investment?
I'll say, of course, I'll say it has, because I mean, I've been talking and flogging the issue of productivity, right? In order for there to be productivity, then there needs to be some form of stability and security in the country. And another way in which the country can get stabilized, even in terms of the currency, we need to see foreign direct investment. I mean, if you're an investor, I'm not sure that you want to go into the nooks and crannies of Nigeria right now. And even the seemingly safe places like Lagos now is not so safe, right? So as it were, I'll say that it has negatively impacted the economy because we're not seeing a lot of foreign direct investments. And even the ones here, we're seeing a lot of companies starting to want to exit because there's just not that stability, as it were.
Okay, let's read through some of the messages that we've got at this time. Chidi has a lengthy one. It says, I'm struggling to understand why the CBN governor can't be sacked. Under his watch, our foreign reserves and excess crude reserve is at an all-time low due to mismanagement and poor economic policies. When he attempted joining partisan politics, it was a clear signal that his independence had since been compromised and ought to have been sacked at that moment, but perhaps powers that be understand the relationship they have with him. Today, major players in the parallel market are too confident that the CBN can't intervene in the black market because it's getting obvious to them that the CBN lack FX liquidity. Hence, they're controlling the market unabated. Even when it's obvious that 710 is not the fair value of dollar, the CBN governor should please just resign immediately before the worst happens. Right now, international investors don't trust the independence of our monetary authority, and clearly they can't come any longer. We have another message from Benga Akomu, who says, how do we produce without power? I'm sure you'd respond to that soon enough. Zikolo is saying, this same diversification is that our government has been paying lip service to for years. This government left the real issues and started shading shadows, accusing Aboki FX of causing the naira fall. There is urgent need to save now. Yinka Bolu has a lot of messages here. First, it was like summer, okay, reacting to those who are also in demand of dollar. Now, it says, as of 3 weeks ago, the dollar was trading at 615 naira. As of yesterday, it went up to 710. That's a difference of 95 naira. Please, other than the usual rhetorics of demand and supply, someone please explain what makes up the 95 naira difference. Blood, oxygen? Because it makes no sense to me. I was at the bank yesterday to pick up some FX, and what I saw at the bank was horror. I didn't know they have added to the job description of bank tellers to include, hook up with that's abokis, those who change the dollars. First, it was the only $20 bills. Then I gathered some banks won't even accept $20 bills as deposit. That's a message from Yinka Bolu. Okay, let's see if we can react to some of them. We're getting out of time.
So I think the first one that I'll react to, right, is the productivity and power. So I mean, I think Benga was the one that commented that, if I remember correctly. Essentially, there cannot be, and that's why the situation in Nigeria is quite precarious, because it's like the issues are multifaceted, right? And in order for there to be production, of course, there needs to be some level of infrastructure that needs to happen and a lot of investment that needs to go into that. But then we have a government that also says that they don't have a lot of money, and where a lot of our income as it is and revenue is used to fund, and even debt right now, we're using debt to fund a lot of recurrent expenditure as it were. So there can't be that diversification if there is no stability in power. And so those are the things that need to be addressed. Power, insecurity, those things need to be fixed for the diversification story and production to happen. And then the 95 naira difference. I think that just like we were talking about, Victor, there's a lot of speculation still in between. But if you ask me, I mean, there is the demand and supply, but I don't think that demand geometrically increased this week to cause the kind of jump that we have seen. There has been a lot of panic because, I mean, if people are speculating that it will touch 1,000 naira, then there are people that think that, oh, why don't I buy now at 700 so that when it gets to 1,000, I can sell. Those are the kind of things that are also putting that pressure on where it is right now.
Well, Modupe Oluwa, thank you very much for having this conversation with us today. And by the way, Modupe Olaniyi is the head foreign exchange trading at Stanbic IBTC. We've come to the end of the show for today, but let's keep the conversation going on Twitter at Smooth981FM and tag Stanbic into it. And let's talk about Forex. And for those of you asking why the CBN governor is still there, take it over to Twitter. Let's have that conversation there. Well, 7:30 will be time for Freshly Pressed. My name is Pepple. Keep listening to the show.
Trends beyond the headlines.
But thank you very much for coming on the show. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. Bye.
See you ahead.